Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American supernatural horror film from 2014, titled Last Shift. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie opens with Jessica Loren, a rookie police officer on her first assignment, who is tasked with taking the final shift at the Sanford police station before it is permanently closed. While speaking on the phone with her mother, Jessica's mother pleads with her not to take the job, reminding her that Jessica's father, also a police officer, was killed in the line of duty. Jessica reassures her mother that she will be fine before ending the call and heading to the station to report for duty. Inside, she finds the building empty but soon begins hearing noises. She sees a man angrily pounding on a door, only to realize it is her commanding officer, Cohen. He gives her a brief tour of the station, explaining that all operations have been transferred to the new facility, so she will not receive any emergency calls. Cohen then takes her to a room and informs her that a hazmat team will arrive between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. to collect hazardous materials from evidence storage that are difficult to dispose of, and he instructs her not to leave her post under any circumstances. When he asks if she has any questions, Jessica replies no, and before leaving, Cohen gives her his phone number to call in case of an emergency. As her shift begins, Jessica grows bored and nearly falls asleep, but she wakes when she hears a noise and notices the hallway light flickering continuously. Suddenly, she receives a distress call from a girl claiming that someone is chasing her and she needs help. When Jessica asks for the girl's address to send assistance, the call abruptly disconnects. Jessica contacts the police dispatcher to report the call, even though Cohen had told her that all 911 calls had been rerouted to the new station. The dispatcher confirms that the rerouting is correct and tells Jessica to contact him if any other issues arise. After the call, Jessica hears a door slam, and thinking it might be Cohen, calls out to him but receives no response. She checks the area but finds nothing, and deciding to take a break, she heads to the kitchen to eat. While eating, she begins to feel something and unexpectedly pulls a long thread from her mouth. Moments later, Jessica hears knocking at the front door, and when she checks, no one is there. As she turns around, she sees a homeless man standing in the hallway. She tells him to leave, but he remains silent. Suddenly, he urinates on the floor, and frustrated, Jessica forces him outside, and he finally leaves. After cleaning up the mess, she goes to the bathroom to wash her hands and begins hearing creaking sounds in the pipes. Although she finds nothing unusual, she notices an old pair of boots, which she takes outside. Later, while walking through the station, Jessica enters the locker room and discovers a key in one of the lockers. Opening it, she finds a photo of herself as a child with her late father, and to her surprise, she turns to see that the other lockers are now wide open. Just then, the phone rings again. It's the same girl, who introduces herself as Monica. Monica says she has been kidnapped by a cult, and when Jessica asks for her location, Monica is unable to give a clear address before the call disconnects. Jessica contacts the police dispatcher, who advises her that if the girl calls again, she should tell her to dial 911. Soon after, strange events begin to occur. A door slams shut, startling Jessica, and she hears noises coming from one of the rooms, and when she goes to investigate, the station's lights suddenly go out. Jessica finds a rear door open and discovers the homeless man in a storage room, throwing objects around, and she realizes he is the one who tampered with the lights. Jessica detains the man and locks him in a holding cell. However, the cell door suddenly closes behind her, trapping her inside, and the lights go out again. When the man attempts to attack her, Jessica uses her taser to subdue him, rendering him unconscious. When Jessica tries to open the door, a person with a bloodied face suddenly appears in the window, startling her and causing her to drop her flashlight. In the darkness, she hears groaning and realizes it's the homeless man, who begins to taunt her with the flashlight. When Jessica demands that he return her flashlight, the beam shifts to the corner, revealing that the homeless man is still unconscious. Terrified, Jessica asks who is there, and a girl's voice replies, warning that she will be hurt. The lights suddenly flicker back on, the door opens, but Jessica didn't see anyone. Shaken by the encounter, Jessica leaves a voicemail for Cohen, but instead of mentioning what happened, she simply says she is happy to have joined the police. Later, while resting, Jessica notices the word "Sow" written on the ceiling, and alarmed, she begins checking to make sure all the doors are locked. During this, she spots a woman outside the station, a loiterer named Marigold, and tells her to leave, insisting she can't be here. Realizing it's Jessica's first time working at the station, Marigold tells her she was once held in a cell in this station when the police brought in an infamous cult led by the charismatic John Michael Paimon. Marigold explains that the official story, that the cult was killed at their residence, is false. Instead, they committed suicide in the station exactly 1 year ago, and before leaving, Marigold hums the same eerie song Jessica heard earlier, leaving her deeply unsettled. Back inside, Jessica discovers that the television in the meeting room has turned on by itself, playing footage from an old interrogation of the cult. The recordings reveal that Paimon, the leader of a devil-worshipping group modeled after the Manson family, went on a killing spree with his followers, Kitty and Dorothea, before the police ended their rampage. The cult worshipped the king of hell, a being also named Paimon, and before dying, Paimon vowed to return and destroy everything. Jessica becomes even more unsettled when she sees chairs and doors moving on their own, ghostly figures appearing, and hears distant voices singing. Suddenly, the phone rings again. It's Monica, pleading for help and revealing her last name to be Young. Jessica tells her she can trace the call and advises her to hang up and dial 911. However, Monica explains that she can't because the call keeps redialing on its own. Panicked, Monica tells Jessica that the other girls are dead and that her captors are getting closer. Monica begins humming the same eerie song Jessica heard earlier, before the call disconnects. Jessica quickly contacts the police dispatcher, sharing everything she learned from Monica. She tells him she suspects that the remaining members of the Paimon family might be involved, based on the song she heard during the call. The dispatcher laughs, assuring her that the family members are scattered and under constant surveillance. He gives her a report number before hanging up, and moments later, Jessica hears faint whispering. To her shock, the shattered chairs in one of the rooms begin stacking themselves one on top of another. Instead of feeling frightened, Jessica laughs, assuming the officers are playing a prank on her since she's new at the station. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door, and a fellow police officer, Ryan Price, arrives the station. Loren accuses him of orchestrating the strange events as part of a hazing ritual, but confused, Price insists he only came by to check on her, explaining that he once served with her father. He confirms that the murderous cult had been captured alive and tells her that her late father, who died apprehending them, would be proud of her. As he turns to leave, Jessica notices a bullet wound in the back of his head before he vanishes, leaving her shaken. Moments later, Jessica begins hearing the voices of a man shouting in anger and those of little girls crying out for help. To her horror, Jessica sees a man slowly emerging from a room with a sack over his head, walking toward her. Terrified, she hides and soon realizes that it is only an apparition. Just then, she hears the homeless man's voice pleading to be let out of the cell. Jessica rushes toward the sound but stops when she sees him. Convincing herself that it isn't real, she leaves the cell area while the homeless man continues begging for help. Moments later, Jessica hears the voices of girls singing in another room and follows the sound, unaware that someone is silently following behind her. She enters the room and finds several girls sitting in a circle, singing, the victims of Paimon's cult, before disappearing. Having had enough of the strange occurrences, Loren calls Cohen to say she cannot finish her shift but reluctantly agrees to stay when he threatens to fire her. A short while later, Jessica receives another call from Monica, who claims she has escaped from her captors and is running through the woods. However, before she can get far, her captors catch her again, and the call abruptly disconnects. Jessica immediately contacts the police dispatcher, and to her shock, she learns that Monica was the final victim of Paimon's cult and died over a year ago. The dispatcher also tells her that the members of the Paimon cult committed suicide while in police custody and are believed to haunt the old station, one of the reasons the police force is relocating to a new building. Just then, a picture flies toward Jessica, and to her horror, it is a photograph of her deceased father. She also finds several photos of Paimon's massacre victims, including Officer Price. Suddenly, dozens more photographs appear, followed by an ear-piercing noise that overwhelms her. As the noise intensifies, the pictures mysteriously burst into flames, and Jessica loses consciousness. Minutes later, Jessica regains consciousness and finds that the photographs, and her police belt, are gone. She spots a woman inside the station and chases after her, but is struck and knocked unconscious. When Jessica wakes up, she realizes she has been captured by the woman, who is revealed to be a surviving member of the Paimon cult. The woman holds Jessica hostage and angrily laments that Paimon chose to die without taking her with him. She claims to have forgiven Paimon and tells Jessica that it is the one-year anniversary of the cult's suicides, and just then, she shoots herself in front of Jessica. Soon after, the phone begins ringing again, and shaken, Jessica retrieves her gun and belt before answering the call. It is Monica on the line, and when Jessica tells her that she is dead, Monica begins to laugh, and then Jessica sees something horrifying. She hides as a deformed girl, revealed to be Monica's ghost, searches for her. The spirit finds Jessica's hiding spot but does not harm her before vanishing. Terrified and desperate to escape, Jessica runs to the main door, but it will not open. She fires at the glass, but it refuses to break. Suddenly, her phone rings, and this time, it is her deceased father calling. He tells her he is proud of her and questions why she wants to leave the station, urging her to seek justice for his death. Overwhelmed, Jessica promises not to leave and vows to avenge him, and just then, she sees the homeless man standing in the hallway. She demands to know how he got out, and as she moves to apprehend him, the lights suddenly go out. Using her flashlight, Jessica returns to the holding cell and discovers the homeless man hanging, with strange writings covering the walls. Moments later, she becomes trapped inside the cell and witnesses a haunting vision of the day Paimon, Kitty, and Dorothea took their own lives. Before dying, they performed a dark ritual, and even in death, their spirits remain bound to the station, continuing to haunt it. Jessica's father calls again, warning her that members of the cult are planning to attack the station, and moments later, a group of masked intruders breaks in. Jessica pursues them through the darkened corridors, shooting them one by one. As she fires at the last attacker, Cohen suddenly appears and shoots her from behind. In a brief moment of clarity, Jessica realizes the horrifying truth: the cultists were hallucinations, and she has actually killed the entire hazmat team. As Cohen calls for medical assistance, Jessica lies wounded on the floor, and watches helplessly as the spirits of Paimon and his followers appear around her. As she takes her final breaths, Jessica begins softly singing the Paimon family's haunting signature song, joining their chorus as she dies. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Last Shift from 2014. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.